The message arrived on a Tuesday morning when Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his third cup of coffee and wondering why the ship's artificial gravity always seemed to make his back ache. The communication came through the deep space relay network, transmitted from somewhere so far away that the light carrying it had been traveling for weeks. "Sir, we're getting something strange," called out Lieutenant Ben Carter from the communications station. "It's in about 12 different alien languages, but the computer is translating it." Jake set down his coffee mug and walked over to the main screen. The Earth science vessel Horizon had been on routine patrol near the outer rim of the solar system, collecting data on asteroid compositions and checking for signs of alien activity. They had found plenty of the first and none of the second. Until now, the message displayed on the screen in clean, simple text. Jake read it twice before he understood what he was looking at. To the respected botanical researchers of the third planetary body in the Sol system, greetings from the Galactic Academic Consortium. We have observed your remarkable success in maintaining diverse plant life across your world's surface. Your techniques for peaceful coexistence with planetary flora have impressed our scientific community. We would be honored to host you at our annual conference on sustainable ecosystem management. Please prepare a presentation on your methods of plant cultivation and species preservation. We are particularly interested in your apparent ability to maintain such variety without conflict between different plant species. Jake stared at the message for a long moment. "You think we're gardeners?" "Sir?" Ben looked confused. "They've been watching Earth from space, and they think we're some kind of advanced plant scientists." Jake laughed and shook his head. "Want us to give a lecture on how we take care of our plants?" Dr. Lisa Kim, the ship's chief biologist, appeared at Jake's shoulder. She had been working in the lab when the message came through and still wore her white lab coat covered in suspicious stains. "Did someone say something about plants?" Jake pointed to the screen. "Read this." Lisa read the message, her eyebrows climbing higher with each line. "I think Earth is some kind of botanical paradise where we've solved all the problems of ecosystem management. Should we tell them the truth?" Ben asked. "What truth?" Jake grinned. "That most of our ecosystem management involves things eating other things? That our plants survive because they're constantly competing with each other and being eaten by animals who are also trying not to get eaten by bigger animals." Lisa was already getting excited. Jake could see the scientific curiosity lighting up in her eyes. "This is incredible. Chance to show alien species what a real ecosystem looks like. We have to go." "They want a presentation on plant cultivation," Jake pointed out. "Then we'll give them one. We'll show them exactly how Earth's plants survive and thrive." Lisa was already planning. "We'll need specimens, habitat examples, maybe some of the research animals from the biolab." "Research animals? You can't explain how plants really work without showing the whole food web. Herbivores, carnivores, the complete cycle of life and death that keeps everything in balance." Jake looked back at the alien message. The coordinates were included, along with a date 3 weeks away. The location was something called Harmony Station, orbiting a world the aliens described as a peaceful garden where all species coexist in perfect understanding. "They really have no idea what they're asking for, do they?" Jake said. "None at all," Lisa agreed cheerfully. Ben sent a reply. "Tell them we accept their invitation and we'll be bringing educational materials to help them understand Earth's ecosystem management techniques." "What kind of educational materials?" Ben asked. Lisa grinned. "The kind that will give them a real education." Over the next 3 days, the Horizon became a floating zoo. Lisa had contacted Earth's research stations and universities, requesting specimens of what she called representative Earth fauna. Jake watched as the cargo bay filled with habitat containers of various sizes. "That's a big container," he observed, looking at one that was the size of a small room. "That's for Rex," Lisa explained. "He's a Siberian tiger. It's a perfect example of an apex predator and how they maintain herbivore population balance. You're bringing a tiger to an alien academic conference." "I'm bringing a complete ecosystem demonstration. Rex is just part of it. We also have Luna and her wolf pack, some deer, a few smaller predators, and various herbivores. Oh, and some footage of marine life, including great white sharks." Jake stared at her. "You're going to show aliens sharks? Educational value," Lisa said firmly. "They want to understand how Earth's ecosystems work. This is how they work. Dr. Steve Parker, the ship's animal behavior specialist, was busy setting up monitoring equipment in each habitat. The animals are responding well to the ship environment, he reported. Rex seems particularly comfortable. He's been sleeping. Most of the time, Tiger sleeps 16 hours a day, Lisa explained. Very efficient predators. They conserve energy between hunts. What do you think the aliens will make of all this? Jake asked. Steve shrugged. Depends on what their own worlds are like. If they've never seen predator-prey relationships, this might be quite a shock. The message said they live in perfect understanding with all species, Ben pointed out. Sounds like they don't have predators. Then this will be very educational, Lisa said with satisfaction. Has the Horizon prepared to leave Earth's solar system? Jake found himself wondering what they were getting into. The alien message had been so polite, so civilized. They clearly expected a quiet academic presentation on plant care techniques instead. They were about to get a complete course in what humans called nature, red in tooth and claw. Are we sure this is a good idea? Yes, Lisa, as they watched the stars shift to hyperspace. It's a wonderful idea, she replied. They invited us to share knowledge about Earth's ecosystems. That's exactly what we're going to do. Even if it's not what they expect, especially because it's not what they expect. Lisa looked thoughtful. Jake, I think this might be the most important scientific exchange in human history. We're going to show them that there's more than one way for life to evolve, more than one way for intelligence to develop. By bringing them a tiger, by showing them that competition and cooperation can exist together, that violence and beauty can be part of the same system, that intelligence can grow from challenge as much as from peace. Jake nodded slowly. If they don't like it, then we'll learn something too. We'll learn that the universe is big enough for different approaches to life. The Horizon continued through hyperspace, carrying its cargo of Earth's most beautiful and dangerous creatures toward a meeting that would change how civilizations saw the universe in the cargo bay. Rex stretched in his habitat and yawned, showing teeth that could crush bone. Luna's pack huddled together in their enclosure, instinctively conserving warmth. The deer grazed peacefully, unaware that they were about to become part of the most important biology lesson in galactic history. And in the command center, Morrison finished his coffee and wondered what the aliens would think. When they realized that the peaceful gardeners they had invited were actually the products of a world where everything was trying to eat everything else, he had a feeling they were about to find out. Harmony Station appeared on the view screen like a crystal flower blooming in space. The alien structure was beautiful in a way that made Jake Morrison's chest tight with wonder. Transparent tubes connected spherical sections that glowed with soft, warm light. Gardens were visible through the clear walls, with plants that looked like they belonged in a fairy tale. It's gorgeous, whispered Ben Carter from his position at the communications console. Look at those gardens. Everything. It looks so peaceful. Lisa Kim pressed her face to the observation window. No defensive systems that I can see. No weapons platforms. No shields. She sounded amazed. They really do live in peace. The docking instructions came through in that same polite, formal tone they had received in the original invitation. The alien voice was soft and melodic, even through the translation system. Welcome, honored guests from Sol System. Please dock at Bay 7. Our botanical specialists are eager to meet you and learn from your wisdom. Jake guided the Horizon through the docking sequence, noting how the station's systems seemed designed for cooperation rather than defense. Everything was open, visible, trusting. It made him nervous in a way he could not explain. The docking bay was filled with aliens, and Jake got his first good look at the beings who had invited them. The largest group looked like giant moths, with wings that shimmered in colors he had no names for. Their eyes were made of what looked like crystal, multifaceted and brilliant. They moved with grace that reminded him of dancers. Another group resembled walking trees, but trees that had learned to think. Their bark-like skin was smooth and polished, and they seemed to glow with their own inner light. Jake realized they were probably photosynthetic, like earth plants, but mobile and intelligent. The third group was the strangest of all. They looked like living coral formations, constantly shifting colors across their surfaces. Jake watched one change from deep blue to bright yellow to soft green in the space of a few seconds. The Veltar, Kefti, and Zoran, Lisa said, reading from her tablet. The three founding species of the Galactic Academic Consortium, the moth-like ones, are the Veltar. The plant people are Kefti. The color-changing ones are Zoran. A particularly large Veltar approached as they disembarked. His wings were a beautiful silver-blue color, and when he spoke, Jake could hear a musical clicking sound underneath the translation. I am station. Commander Yithdel, the translation came through clearly. You're honored to welcome such distinguished botanical researchers to Harmony Station. Your reputation for peaceful plant cultivation has spread throughout the academic community. Jake exchanged a quick look with Lisa. Thank you for having us, he said carefully. We're excited to share our knowledge about Earth's ecosystems. The entire station is buzzing with anticipation, Yithdel continued, his wings fluttering with what seemed to be excitement. We have prepared our largest lecture hall for your presentation. Over 200 species will be attending to learn your secrets of botanical harmony. Botanical harmony, Lisa repeated faintly. Yes. How do you manage to maintain such diversity without competition between species? How do your plants coexist so peacefully? We have studied the images transmitted from your world, and the variety is astounding. Yet there seems to be no conflict, no struggle for resources. Behind them, the cargo bay of the horizon began to open with a mechanical whir. The loading crew started to emerge, guiding the first of the habitat containers on floating platforms. Oh, there's definitely struggle for resources, Lisa said. That's actually how the whole system maintains balance. Intel's crystalline eyes focused on her with intense interest. Fascinating. You've found a way to eliminate struggle while maintaining the appearance of it? Some kind of illusion for the benefit of the plants? Not exactly an illusion, Jake said slowly. The first habitat container moved past them, containing the deer herd. Through the transparent walls, the graceful animals were visible, peacefully grazing on synthetic vegetation. Magnificent. Breathed. A Kefti, who had approached to observe such beautiful creatures. Are these your botanical assistants? Do they help with seed dispersal? In a way, Lisa said, they're herbivores. They eat plants, which helps control plant populations and spread seeds through their waste. They consume the plants? The Kefti's bark-like skin shifted to a pale color that Jake suspected was the equivalent of shock. Only the ones that grow too much, Lisa explained. It's a natural pruning system. So the second container rolled by, and Jake could see Luna and her pack inside. The wolves were alert and watching everything with intelligent yellow eyes. One of them lifted his head and let out a soft howl that echoed through the docking bay. Every alien in the vicinity froze. The sound was unlike anything they had ever heard. It was wild and lonely and spoke of vast forests and endless hunts under starlit skies. It was the voice of predators calling to their pack, and every peaceful creature in that docking bay felt something deep and primitive stir in response. What? Yithdel asked in a voice that was suddenly much quieter. Was that sound? That's Luna, Lisa said cheerfully. She's the alpha female of our wolf pack. Wolves are social hunters. They work together to bring down prey larger than themselves. Bring down prey, repeated Azoran, his color shifting rapidly through what Jake was beginning to recognize as distress patterns. Oh yes, they hunt deer, elk, sometimes even large predators if they're in a big enough pack. Very efficient hunters. They can track prey for miles and coordinate their attacks with remarkable intelligence. The largest habitat container was approaching now, and Jake could hear a low rumbling sound from inside it. Rex was awake and probably smelling all the new scents in the station. The tiger's container was heavily reinforced and marked with warning signs in multiple Earth languages. And what, Yithdel asked faintly, is in that container? That's Rex, Lisa said proudly. He's a Siberian tiger. Perfect example of an apex predator. Tigers are solitary hunters, unlike wolves. They rely on stealth and power rather than pack. Tactics. The rumbling sound grew louder, and Jake realized Rex was purring. To the humans, It was a comforting sound that meant the big cat was content. To the aliens, who had never heard anything like it, it sounded like some kind of mechanical engine preparing for destruction. Apex predator Yithel repeated slowly. Top of the food chain, Lisa confirmed. Nothing hunts tigers except humans. And we only did that before we understood how important they are to ecosystem balance. Humans hunt these creatures. We used to. How we protect them. Rexier was born in captivity as part of a breeding program to save his species. More aliens were gathering now, drawn by curiosity about the strange creatures from the Sol system. They maintained a respectful distance. But Jake could see the confusion and growing concern in their postures and color changes. Professor Zethkri, distinguished-looking Veltar with wings marked by scholarly tattoos, approached the group. "Forgive me," he said, "but I must ask about the nature of these creatures. They seem to exhibit behaviors we do not understand." "They're just being themselves," Steve Parker said, joining the conversation. He had been monitoring the animals during transport and looked pleased with their condition. The wolves are naturally curious about new environments. Rex is probably just happy to be somewhere with more interesting smells. But the sounds they make, Zethkri pressed, they seem designed to create fear responses. "Well, yes," Steve agreed. The wolves howl to communicate with their pack and to intimidate competitors or prey. Tiger roars can be heard for miles and serve as territorial warnings. It's all about survival and reproduction. Territorial warnings, Zethkri said faintly. Competition for mates, hunting grounds, that sort of thing, Steve continued enthusiastically. Earth's predators have evolved incredibly sophisticated methods. For intimidating rivals and prey species, Jake watched as more and more aliens gathered around them, their various forms of expression, all showing the same emotion, complete bewilderment. They had invited what they thought were peaceful plant researchers, and instead they were getting a crash course in predator behavior. Perhaps Yithel said carefully, "We should proceed to your quarters so you can rest before tomorrow's presentation." "It sounds great," Jake agreed. "We'll need to set up the habitats in the lecture hall and make sure all the animals are comfortable. The animals will be in the lecture hall," of course, Lisa said. "You can't really understand Earth's ecosystem without seeing how all the parts work together. We've brought a complete demonstration." As they followed Yithel through the beautiful, peaceful corridors of Harmony Station, Jake noticed that word was spreading quickly among the alien population. Everywhere they went, being stopped to stare and whisper among themselves. The news that the botanical experts from Earth had brought predators was racing through the station like wildfire. Tomorrow's lecture was going to be very interesting indeed. The great assembly hall of Harmony Station had never seen such a crowd. Jake Morrison stood at the back of the enormous room, watching as hundreds of alien beings filled every available seat. The amphitheater was designed like a massive bowl, with curved seating rising up from a central presentation area. Beings of dozens of different species chatted excitedly in languages that sounded like music, wind chimes, and rushing water. "I count at least 50 different species," Ben Carter said, his voice filled with awe. "Look at that group over there. They look like walking crystals." "Those are from the Silthara system," Lisa Kim said, consulting her tablet. "Silicon-based life forms. And see the floating ones near the ceiling? Gas-based entities from high atmosphere. Worlds." Jake felt his stomach tighten with nervousness. When they had planned this presentation back on Earth, it had seemed like a good idea. Show the aliens how real ecosystems worked. Give them a complete picture of life on Earth. Now, looking at all these peaceful beings who had probably never seen violence in their entire lives, he wondered if they were about to cause an interspecies incident. "Too late to back out now," he muttered. Station Commander Yithel approached them, his silver-blue wings practically glowing with excitement. "The entire scientific community is here," he said proudly. "We have researchers from 73 different worlds, all eager to learn your secrets of botanical harmony." "About that," Jake began, but Yithel was already moving toward the podium. "Distinguished colleagues," Yithel's voice rang out through the hall's translation system. "Today, we are privileged to hear from the remarkable botanists of Earth who have achieved what we once thought impossible. Perfect ecological balance with no competition, no conflict, no struggle for survival." A pleased murmur rippled through the audience. Jake saw aliens of all shapes and sizes leaning forward in anticipation. I present Dr. Lisa Kim and the research team from the Sol System. The applause was unlike anything Jake had ever heard. It sounded like a symphony of bells, whistles, harmonious tones, and rhythmic patterns. Lisa walked to the podium, her face bright with scientific enthusiasm. "Thank you all for this wonderful welcome," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "Today we will be sharing with you the true nature of Earth's ecosystem, and how life on our world maintains balance through what we call natural selection." More pleased sounds from the audience. This was exactly what they wanted to hear. 2. Understand how our ecosystems work. We need to start with the foundation of all life: energy, flow, and nutrient cycling. Lisa gestured to her team, who began wheeling in the first habitat container. "Let me introduce you to some of Earth's primary consumers." The container opened, and the deer herd stepped gracefully into the enlarged presentation space. The audience cooed with delight at these beautiful, peaceful creatures. The deer, finding themselves in a new environment with strange smells and sounds, huddled together nervously but began to graze on the vegetation that had been prepared for them. "Magnificent," whispered Professor Zethkry to his colleague.
Look.
"How harmoniously they move together." "These are white-tailed deer," Lisa continued. "They are herbivores, which means they eat only plants. On Earth, herbivores play a crucial role in preventing any single plant species from dominating an ecosystem." A KFT in the front row, whose bark-like skin was glowing with interest, raised a branch-like appendage. "How do they prevent plant dominance without harming the plants?" "They eat them," Lisa said simply. The glow in the KFT's skin flickered and dimmed. Around the hall, translator systems struggled to convey the concept to species that had never encountered such behavior. "But surely," called out one of the crystal beings, "they only consume plants that volunteer for this service?" Lisa blinked. "Volunteer? No, they just eat whatever plants they can find. Grass, leaves, flowers, bark sometimes. The plants don't have a choice in the matter." A ripple of unease passed through the audience. Several of the KFT had turned pale green, which Jake suspected was not a good sign. "This is fascinating," Lisa continued, oblivious to the growing discomfort. "But to truly understand ecosystem balance, we need to see the complete picture. Herbivore populations must be controlled, or they would eat all the plants and then starve. This is where our secondary consumers come in." She nodded to Steve Parker, who began opening the second habitat container. "I would like you to meet Luna and her pack." The wolves emerged from their container with fluid grace, immediately alert and assessing their new environment. Their yellow eyes swept the room, taking in the vast crowd of potential threats and opportunities. Luna, the alpha female, raised her head and tested the air with her nose. The silence in the auditorium was complete. Every alien being in the hall had gone. The wolves had not made a sound, had not done anything threatening, but their presence radiated something that transcended species barriers. It was the aura of predators, of creatures born to hunt and kill, and every peaceful being in that room felt it on an instinctual level they did not understand. "These are wolves," Lisa said into the silence. "They are what we call pack hunters. They work together to catch and kill the herbivores, ensuring that deer populations remain healthy and do not overeat the vegetation." The word "kill" hit the audience like a physical blow. Translator systems across the hall began flashing error messages as they struggled to convey a concept that had no equivalent in most of the languages they were processing. A Velter in the upper galleries made a sound like breaking glass. One of the KFT began to sway, their photosynthetic leaves curling up in distress. Zoran were flashing colors so rapidly they looked like strobe lights. "Kill," Professor Zethkry's voice was barely a whisper. "It's perfectly natural," Lisa assured him. "Wolves are obligate carnivores, which means they must consume other animals to survive. They have evolved specifically for this purpose. Watch their behavior." As if on cue, the wolves began to spread out across the presentation area. They moved with purpose, their pack instincts kicking in as they detected the scent of the deer. Luna made a low sound, barely audible. and the other wolves responded by taking positions around the deer herd. The deer, recognizing danger on a level older than thought, bunched together and began to move nervously. Their heads came up, ears swiveling as they prepared to run. "Fascinating predatory coordination," Steve Parker commented from his position near the habitat controls. "Notice how they communicate with subtle body language and quiet vocalizations. Each wolf knows exactly what role to play in the hunt." Word hunt sent another wave of shock through the audience. In the upper levels, some aliens were beginning to leave their seats. "Wait," Lisa called out, raising her voice. "This is just the beginning. To truly understand Earth's ecosystem, you need to see the apex predators, the species that sit at the very top of the food web." Jake felt his heart sink as he watched Steve and Ben begin to unlock the largest habitat container. Through the reinforced walls, he could see Rex beginning to stir. The big tiger had been sleeping during the early part of the presentation, but the scents and sounds of potential prey had awakened his hunting instincts. "No," someone called out from the audience, "please, no more," but it was too late. Deluxe disengaged with a hydraulic hiss, and the front wall of the container began to lower. Rex emerged like a force of nature. 700 pounds of muscle and bone wrapped in orange and black stripes, moving with the fluid confidence of a creature that had never encountered anything it could not kill. As amber eyes surveyed the room with calm interest, taking in the crowd of strange beings with the casual assessment of an apex predator, the reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Screaming began in at least 12 different forms. Some aliens shrieked in frequencies that made the hall's acoustic systems overload. Others released chemical alarm signals that sent entire sections of the audience into panic. The crystal beings simply shattered, their fragments jingling as they hit the floor. Rex, unperturbed by the chaos, sat down and began to groom his paw. "This is a Siberian tiger," Lisa said, raising her voice to be heard over the pandemonium. "Tigers are solitary apex predators. Unlike wolves, they hunt alone, using stealth and overwhelming force to take down prey much larger than themselves." Half the audience was fleeing toward the exits. The other half seemed frozen in terror, unable to look away from the magnificent predator who was now yawning, showing fangs that could pierce steel. Professor Zethkri, somehow still in his seat, stared at Rex with a mixture of horror and scientific fascination. "What does it eat?" he asked faintly. "Pretty much anything it wants," Lisa replied cheerfully. "An adult tiger needs about 20 pounds of meat per day. They're perfectly designed killing machines, with night vision, incredible hearing, and the strongest bite force of any cat species." 20 pounds of meat, Zethkri repeated. 20 pounds of other living creatures. Oh yes, and that's just the tigers. Wait until we discuss the marine ecosystems. We brought footage of great white sharks, killer whales, and giant squids. Remaining aliens began evacuating even faster. Jake watched the chaos with growing concern. This was not going as planned. But as he looked at the few aliens who remained, he saw something else alongside the fear. He saw wonder, curiosity. The evacuation alarm was blaring across Harmony Station. But Dr. Lisa Kim seemed completely unaware of the chaos surrounding her. She stood at the podium, calmly adjusting her presentation materials, while aliens fled in every direction around her. "Fascinating behavioral response," Dr. Steve Parker observed, making notes on his tablet as he watched a group of crystalline beings literally explode from terror. They seemed to have an instinctual fear response to predatory behavior, even though they've never encountered it before. Rex stretched lazily in the presentation area, completely ignoring the panic he had caused. The big tiger found a patch of warm light from the hall's artificial sun and settled down for another nap. One of the wolves, curious about the fleeing aliens, had wandered over to sniff at a puddle of stress chemicals left behind by a terrified Kefti. Captain Jake Morrison was frantically trying to calm Station Commander Yithtel. His wings were vibrating so fast they had become a silver blur. "It's perfectly natural," Jake insisted, raising his voice over the alarm. "This happens millions of times every day on Earth." Millions of times? Yithtel's translation unit was struggling with his panic-induced speech patterns. Sounds he was making were so rapid they sounded like machine gun fire. "You allow murder millions of times daily. It's not murder. Jake protested. It's just nature. It's how ecosystems work. Everything eats something else, and that keeps populations balanced. Everything eats everything? Well, not everything. Plants make their own food from sunlight. But most animals eat other things. Yes. Professor Zethkri, who had somehow remained in his seat through sheer academic stubbornness, was staring at Rex with wide, crystalline eyes. Your world, he said slowly, is populated entirely by killers. That's a bit harsh, Lisa said, finally looking up from her notes. They're not killers by choice. They're just following their biological programming. Predation is simply the most efficient way to transfer energy through an ecosystem. But the suffering, whispered a Kefti who had not yet fled, the fear. The pain when these creatures consume other living beings? Oh, most predators try to kill quickly, Steve explained helpfully. It's more energy efficient. A long, drawn-out kill wastes calories and increases the risk of injury to the predator. The Kefti turned an alarming shade of brown and toppled. Over, Steve, Jake said sharply. Maybe we should tone down the details. But this is incredible, Lisa protested. Do you see what we're witnessing here? We're showing them an entirely different evolutionary path. Their species developed in environments without predation, pressure, so they never evolved fear responses or competitive behaviors. Ben Carter looked up from his communication station, which he had set up near the back of the hall. Captain, I'm getting reports from all over the station. Medical teams are treating aliens for shock, stress-induced unconsciousness, and something the translators are calling existential crisis syndrome. Existential crisis syndrome, Jake repeated, apparently learning that there are creatures designed specifically to kill. Other creatures is causing some species to question their entire understanding of the universe. A new group of aliens entered the hall, but these were not the peaceful academics who had fled earlier. These beings wore what looked like official uniforms and moved with the purposeful stride of authority figures. Leading them was a Veltar, whose wings were marked with complex patterns that Jake suspected indicated high rank. I am Admiral Corvithiel of the Consortium Security Council, the newcomer announced. We demand an immediate explanation for this. Disruption. There's no disruption, Lisa said, sounding genuinely confused. We're giving a scientific presentation on Earth's ecosystem management techniques, just as requested. Admiral Corvithiel's gaze fell on Rex, who had opened one amber eye to regard the newcomers with mild interest. That creature is a weapon of mass destruction, Rex. He's actually very gentle, watch this. Lisa walked over to the tiger and scratched. Behind his ears, Rex began to purr, a sound like distant thunder that made every alien in the room freeze in terror. It's making a warning sound, one of the security team shouted. No, that's purring, Lisa explained. It means he's happy and relaxed. Tigers purr when they're content, just like smaller cats. There are smaller versions of this monster. Admiral Corvithiel asked faintly. House cats, yes. Humans have lived with them for thousands of years. They help control rodent populations. You live with predators? We live with lots of predators. Dogs, cats, ferrets. Some humans keep snakes, lizards, even spiders as companions. Spiders, the Admiral repeated in a hollow voice. Oh, that reminds me, Lisa said brightly. We have footage of some of Earth's smaller predators. Steve, could you set up the projection system? No. Came a chorus of voices from the remaining aliens. But Steve was already activating the holographic display. A massive three-dimensional image appeared above the presentation area, showing a jumping spider in perfect detail. The alien audience got a close-up view of 8 legs, multiple eyes, and fangs dripping with venom. The few aliens who had managed to stay conscious through the tiger demonstration immediately fainted. Jumping spiders are amazing hunters, Steve explained enthusiastically. They can leap 40 times their own body length to catch prey. Their vision is so good they can spot potential victims from across a room. Make it stop, whimpered Professor Zethkri. But we haven't even gotten to the marine predators yet, Lisa protested. Wait until you see the great white sharks. You can smell a drop of blood in the water from 3 miles away. Dr. Kim, Jake said firmly. I think we need to pause the presentation. But we're just getting to the good parts, Lisa argued. We haven't talked about persistence hunting yet. how humans evolved to chase prey animals until they collapsed, from exhaustion or pack hunting strategies, or the way some predators play with their food before killing it. Every alien, still conscious in the room, made a sound of horror. Admiral Corvithiel was speaking rapidly into a communication device. Jake caught fragments of the translation: immediate quarantine, dangerous species, and potential galactic threat. Wait, Jake said, raising his hands peacefully. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not dangerous. We're just showing you how our ecosystems work. Your ecosystems, the Admiral said, are based on death and suffering. Yes, partially, Jake admitted, but also on life and cooperation. The predators and prey have evolved together for millions of years. They need each other. The prey need to be eaten. In a way, yes. Without predation, herbivore populations would grow to large and destroy their food sources. Then they would all starve. Predators prevent that by keeping populations at sustainable levels. Professor Zethkri, who had been quietly observing this exchange, spoke up suddenly. You're saying that death serves life? Exactly, Lisa said, relieved that someone was finally understanding. Death and life are part of the same system. Competition drives evolution, which creates diversity and innovation. Fear makes animals smarter and faster. The struggle to survive pushes species to develop new abilities, so the violence creates intelligence. Among other things, yes. The need to outsmart both predators and prey, to work together for protection, to develop tools and strategies for hunting and defense. It all comes from survival pressure. The professor's wings fluttered thoughtfully. We have lived for thousands of years without competition, without fear, without struggle. Our evolution stopped because we had no pressure to change. There's nothing wrong with that, Jake said gently. Your species found peace. That's an achievement too. But we stagnated, Zethkri continued. We became comfortable, safe, unchanging. You have shown us that there is another path, a dangerous path, but one that leads to growth and change and new possibilities. Admiral Corvithiel looked unconvinced. These creatures are still dangerous, only if you threaten them or their pack, Steve said. Rex there's been around thousands of people and never hurt anyone. He knows the difference between prey and prey and prey. Friends. As if to prove the point, Luna approached Steve and nuzzled his hand affectionately. The wolf's tail wagged as Steve scratched behind her ears. She's asking for attention, Steve explained. Wolves are very social animals. They form strong emotional bonds with their pack members. Emotional bonds, Admiral Corvithiel said slowly. These killers feel emotions, of course. Love, loyalty, grief, joy. Predators experience the full range of emotions. Having the capacity for violence doesn't eliminate the capacity for gentleness. Jake watched as a new understanding began to dawn in the aliens' expressions. They were starting to realize that the universe was far more complex and wonderful than they had ever imagined. And perhaps, just perhaps, they were beginning to see that. There was something to learn from the strange, violent, beautiful world called Earth. 3 hours after the chaos began, the Great Assembly Hall was almost empty. Most of the alien delegates had been taken to medical facilities to recover from shock. The cleanup crews had swept up the shattered remains of the crystal beings who had exploded from terror. The only ones left were the human team, their animals, and a small group of the most determined scientists in the galaxy. Professor Zethkri sat in the front row, his crystalline eyes fixed on Rex. The massive tiger was lying peacefully in a patch of artificial sunlight, grooming his paws with the casual confidence of a creature that had never met anything it could not handle. The deer had been moved to a separate area and were grazing quietly, no longer afraid now that the predators were resting. Your entire planet, Professor Zethkri said slowly, is populated by creatures that eat each other. Not entirely, Doctor. Lisa Kim corrected gently. We have plants too, remember? Though some of those eat animals as well? Your plants eat animals? The professor's wings twitched with what Jake Morrison had learned was the Veltar equivalent of a nervous laugh. Only the small ones, Lisa assured him. Venus flytraps, pitcher plants, sundews. They catch insects and small creatures that fall into their traps. So even your plants are predators. Some of them, yes. It's all about getting nutrients in environments where soil minerals are scarce. Station Commander Yithdal, who had returned, after receiving several doses of anti-anxiety medication, was trying to understand the implications. And you humans, where do you fit in this system of eating and being eaten? Captain Jake Morrison considered how to explain this gently. We're omnivores. We eat both plants and animals. We're also what you might call persistence hunters. What does that mean? It means we evolved to chase our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, Dr. Steve Parker explained. Humans can run longer distances than almost any other animal on Earth. We used to hunt by literally running animals to death. Admiral Corvithiel, who had been quietly observing from the back of the hall, stepped forward. You hunt by torture? Not torture, Jake said quickly. It's actually a very efficient hunting method. Clean, relatively quick, much better than being torn apart by claws and teeth. But the terror the prey must feel, whispered a Kefti who had remained to observe. Being chased for miles, knowing death is following behind. That's the thing about Earth, Lisa said thoughtfully. Everything lives with the knowledge that death could come at any moment. Makes life more precious. Every day survived is a victory. Professor Zethkri's wings fluttered as he processed this concept. So the constant danger makes you value life more, not less. Exactly. When survival is never guaranteed, every moment becomes important. Every friendship, every meal, every sunset could be your last. That sounds terrible, said Yithdal. Sounds wonderful, said Professor Zethkri quietly. We have lived for thousands of years without fear, without challenge, without the need to fight for anything. Our days pass peacefully, one identical to the next. We have forgotten what it means to truly live. Admiral Corvithiel looked skeptical. You would choose danger over safety. I would choose growth over stagnation, the professor replied. Look at what these humans have accomplished. In a few thousand years of civilization, they have developed technology that rivals our own. They have created art, music, literature that speaks of struggle and triumph. Their emotions run deeper because they have known loss. Jake felt a strange warmth in his chest. We're not perfect, he said. We make mistakes. We fight wars, destroy environments, hurt each other. The same drives that make us innovative also make us dangerous. Will you learn from your mistakes? Professor Zethkri observed. You adapt, you change, you grow. When was the last time any of our species discovered something truly new? When did we last feel wonder or surprise or the joy of overcoming a challenge? Luna, the alpha wolf, had wandered over during their conversation. She sniffed at Professor Zethkri with curious yellow eyes, her tail wagging slowly.
Ow.
The professor froze, every instinct telling him he was in mortal danger. She's being friendly, Steve said softly. Wolves are very social. She's trying to figure out if you're part of her pack. What should I do? Hold out your hand. Let her smell you. Move slowly. Stay calm. With trembling wings, Professor Zethkri extended what might have been the equivalent of a hand. Luna sniffed it carefully, then surprised everyone by gently licking his crystalline fingers. She likes you, Lisa said with delight. You passed the wolf test. The professor stared at Luna in amazement. This creature could kill me in seconds, couldn't it? Probably, Steve agreed, but she chooses not to. That's the thing about predators. They're not mindless killing machines.
Ow.
They make decisions, form bonds, show mercy. The capacity for violence doesn't eliminate the capacity for love. Love, repeated Professor Zethkri. As Luna settled down beside his chair, Rex chose that moment to stand up. Stretch with a yawn that showed every one of his massive fangs, and pad over to where Dr. Kim stood. The tiger brushed against her leg, like an enormous house cat, purring with a sound like distant thunder. He weighs 700 pounds, Lisa said, scratching behind Rex's ears. He could break every bone in my body without effort. But he won't because I'm part of his family. Family, Admiral Corvithiel said slowly. These predators understand family? Tigers are solitary in the wild, but Rex was raised with humans. We're his pride now. He would defend us with his life, just as we protect him." The Admiral looked around the hall, taking in the sight of deadly predators resting peacefully beside their human companions. "This changes everything we thought we knew about intelligence, about civilization, about the nature of life itself." "There's room for both approaches," Jake said. "Your species chose peace and achieved harmony. Ours chose competition and achieved innovation. Maybe the galaxy is big enough for different ways of living." "Perhaps," said Professor Zethkry thoughtfully. "But I wonder if we might learn from each other. Your competition balanced by our cooperation? Your innovation guided by our wisdom? You want to exchange knowledge?" Lisa asked excitedly. "More than that," the professor said. "I want to understand what it means to truly live, to face challenges, to grow, to change. I want to remember what it feels like to be surprised." Ithel looked nervous. "Are you suggesting we introduce competition to our worlds? Predators to our peaceful societies?" "It's not predators," Professor Zethkry said with a gentle laugh. "Challenges. It's problems to solve, goals to achieve, frontiers to explore. We have been content for too long." Admiral Corvithiel frowned. "The Security Council will need to evaluate the risks of closer contact with your species." "We understand," Jake said. "We're pretty scary, apparently. But we're also willing to share what we know and to learn from you." "What would you teach us?" asked the Kefti. "How to dream bigger," Lisa said without hesitation. "How to push boundaries, how to fail and try again, how to turn problems into opportunities. And what would you learn from us?" Jake smiled. "To find peace, how to cooperate without competition, how to create harmony without giving up diversity." Professor Zethkry stood up slowly, Luna rising with him. "I believe this could be the beginning of something wonderful. Partnership between those who have mastered peace and those who have mastered change. A galactic civilization that combines the best of both approaches," Admiral Corvithiel said thoughtfully. "Cooperation and competition, harmony and innovation, peace and progress." Rex purred louder, as if he approved of the idea. As the artificial day cycle of Harmony Station dimmed toward evening, the first seeds of a new understanding had been planted. The peaceful species of the galaxy had always believed that intelligence and civilization required the absence of conflict, but the humans had proven that sometimes the greatest growth comes from the greatest challenges. The universe was vast enough for predators and prey, for hunters and gardeners, for those who chose peace and those who chose struggle. And perhaps, by learning from each other, both could become something greater than either could achieve alone. In the cargo bay of the horizon, the empty habitat containers waited for their occupants to return. Tomorrow, the humans would begin their journey home, carrying with them the knowledge that they were no longer alone in the universe and scattered across the galaxy. Other civilizations were already receiving reports of the strange new species that traveled with predators, lived on a world of constant danger, and somehow turned that violence into wisdom. The cosmos would never look at evolution or humanity the same way again.